colocar o microfone mais perto.
Sim.
Olha, eu pensei, mas eu acho que ele vai perder.
Really? Yes. And now I
Doesn't hurt. Yeah.
No
chão?
You know, like I went to Bonfire.
Não, claro.
I'm having more opportunities.
That's great. Não,
So, like,
mas você já pede que eu já fico...
Já colocou no live?
Everything, like, I
Pode
go to
colocar.
my job and also, you know, see the scene.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Do you have time to like go
Yeah.
and see the place you're visiting?
So for example,
Am I in the right place?
Yeah.
tomorrow you arrive again there around 3.
Okay.
And then my job is just like from 2 in the morning.
Oh, so you have.
Yeah, like last week was the same thing. I arrived there, I left my things in the hotel, I took the train, said, okay, let's go and see how's the downtown here. Because it was like Richmond side.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, if you have to travel, the fact that you can enjoy the place you're in a little bit is worth it.
The other guy that was with me last week, I think because he'd been there like many times, so he just arrived, let's go to the restaurant, let's eat.
All right.
I went to the,
Let's start.
yeah.
So today is the layout's looking a little bit different, but it's just, let's do more of a fire chat conversation about fraternity and see how it goes. We're trying to kind of get a little bit of more, instead of just one person just downloading a lot of information. Let's see and let's share some of the thoughts and some of the knowledge that we all have about our doctrine, about specific this topic that we're going to talk about, that is fraternity and fraternal love, and see how it goes. I'm trying to try new ways of learning. Okay, but we'll start the same way that we would like to start, that we've been starting. And today, I'm going to read from Our Daily Bread by our dear Francisco Cleanser Xavier, by the Spirit Emmanuel. And the text, guess what? Is fraternal love.
No. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise, yeah. And it's the passage that Emmanuel describes is the same that I have there. Keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. But here the translation is a little bit different, which maybe I should have used that one. It's let fraternal love remain. Saint Paul, Hebrew chapter 13, versicle 1.
Traduttore, traditore.
Yeah. So Emmanuel explains about let fraternal love remain. Family affections, blood ties, and natural affinities can be very holy manifestations of the soul when individuals raise them to the altar of the higher sentiments. However, the spirit should not fall under the weight of its personal inclinations. Equilibrium is the ideal position. By being overly protective, countless parents cause their children harm. Due to the excessive worry, many married couples descend to the caverns of despair, confronted by the insatiable monsters of jealousy that destroys their happiness. Because of the carelessness, beautiful friendship ends in an abyss of darkness. The above evangelical appeal, therefore, is of great importance. Pure fraternity is the most sublime of the relationships between souls. People who believe they are children of God and sincere brothers and sisters of humankind are not victims of the ghosts of spite, envy, ambition, or mistrust. Those who love one another fraternally are elated with the joy of others, and they are pleased with the good fortune that visits their neighbor. The tumultuous affections that are common on the earth pass volcanically and uselessly. In the web of reincarnation, affection change constantly. Sublime and pure fraternal love, representing the supreme objective of people's understanding, is the imperishable light that will survive on the eternal path. So let us pray. So let's raise our thoughts, our energy, our minds to our Father, God, to Jesus Christ, our Master, to our own individual guardian angels, and also the entire spiritual team from FSS. And as our Master has guided us, let's first be grateful. Be grateful for one more opportunity that we are all here together in this fraternal communion and community to learn a little bit more of Jesus' teachings in light of this consoling doctrine that is Spiritism. Be thankful for this place, this house, this second home of love that is our FSS. Thank you for God, for Jesus, and the entire spiritual team to maintain this ray of light that helps us, that will help other brothers and sisters that might be coming to learn more about Jesus, so we can continue with courage, with faith, with hope in our journey of moral evolution. And let's ask that we are guided, that we are enlightened, and that this one more Sunday morning, we can have good reflections, that we can leave this place feeling maybe a little bit better than when we came. That our conversation, our reflections are blessed with serenity, tranquility, and discernment, and that we can that we can continue taking steps towards our journey of evolution. So be it. All right. So today we're going to talk about fraternity, fraternal love. What do we know about fraternity? What is the understanding? Or why should we care about fraternity?
Connects us to one another.
Connects us to one another? Yeah. If you want to talk in Portuguese, we can translate and we can, I want this to be interactive. Why should we talk about it?
Well, deep down from a spiritist point of view, from a reincarnationist point of view, we might be mother and daughter in this incarnation, but in reality we are fraternal spirits. We are spirits that relate to one another in different physical relationships at each reincarnation, but ultimately brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So we can say that fraternity, no matter what, if we're here as friends, daughters, sisters, brothers, it's kind of some sort of glue or some sort of reason that we come, or we came, and we will come in other lives. That kind of bounds us, right? That kind of guides us in those relationships that we have with one another, no matter what relationship we are talking about, from being sons, fathers, wives, husbands, to what have you. Yes, that's absolutely. What do you know, and I'm going to bring shortly, what do you know, what does the Spiritism doctrine talk about fraternity? What are some of the nuggets that you know that, I've heard about somewhere, maybe on the Spirit book or somewhere else, that, they mentioned this thing about fraternity. Do you know anything, or any passages, or any pieces of fraternity that really, or that caught your attention? Or you think that, that's a good point. Do you know anything about what the Spiritism doctrine talked about fraternity? What Kardec said about fraternity? Do you know what Kardec said about fraternity? I think they're, Okay. Oops. Maybe what do you know that Kardec said about fraternity? Do you know anything?
I don't recall specifically to fraternity, but of course, as all the virtues are connected.
Yeah.
He said outside. I don't know how to translate in English, right? How is it in the book? Outside of charity, there's no salvation, right?
Exactly.
And as charity is what connects or binds us to each other,
Mm-hmm.
and fraternity is almost like a synonym in this context.
Yeah.
So this could be somehow related.
Yeah. Artur, which you by now you might get that I really like his reflections, and he says exactly that fraternity is a kind of it's a sister. It's a very close sister of charity, because at the bottom of all of that there is love, right? And we know that it's only through love that we're going to figure out what we need to figure out. In each one of us will have our own aspects and things that we need to go through. That is through love. Perfect. Okay, let me share some of the things that I have for fraternity. So, just as a reference, I'm going to talk a little bit about Spirit's book, this Conversando sobre Fraternidade, or Conversation about Fraternity with Artur Valadares. And I'm going to bring one thing, and you're going to see a little bit of my bias when I do some of my talks. I always like to bring, okay, what is our state here, aka Earth, and what should we kind of aim for? Kind of what's the future state? And in the Spirit's Review, a Revista Espírita, a journal of psychological studies, I'm going to show you a little bit of the characteristics of what could the future state look like with fraternity from a planet called Jupiter, and how this magazine describes Jupiter. Because I always like, okay, but tell me, what does that look like? So I want to get to that characteristics of the future state, and I found it very interesting how Jupiter is already living that society with fraternity. Yeah.
This is an interesting topic, probably. How to say? Dogmatic, right? Within Spiritism, right? It's one of the things in the Spiritism that you have to believe. And Jesus spoke about them, right? In his parables or in his way. You have to reborn to know the kingdom of God, right? Yeah. And he mentioned something about the multiple existences in multiple worlds.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So those who come from that don't believe in Spiritism or are new to,
you say what the
right?
heck? Yeah.
May want to challenge, right? There's something, but how can one say that those spirits who communicated were literally living in Jupiter, right? As we have different spirits from different planets, right? Including the Keppel, say a group of stars, right? Or and other, right? Which Divaldo also spoke about, who are reincarnated in in the world. And they are going to bring this transformation, right? Yeah. Those are the new spirits who are born in the last probably 15 to 20 years. And they are bringing a different vision. And this is probably connected to what you're talking about, right? Yeah. The changes that we see currently in the world, especially for the newer generations, right? It's because the spirits, they usually come from a big portion of them, right? Come from more evolved worlds, and will help Earth migrate to this new better
or transform
state.
To this new
better
state. Well, we keep saying, we are on this planet of regeneration, right? And there is somehow there's this misconception that Earth would just boom, explode, and a new Earth will be regenerated. And we know that's not like that, right? Even this process of regeneration is happening since actually the consoling, since the Spiritism has been systematized. So that is kind of the process that we've been going through and will go through. I don't know how many more years, or we don't know. It's just a process that we'll go through it. Yeah.
It will also depend on what we do on our part.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not, and I think it was, Divaldo or Haroldo that said how important and it's logically, how on earth do you think that earth will be transformed if we don't do the 8 billion immortal spirits that are living here, don't do their own part? But we will do our own part until one point, and if we believe that God is perfect and God has the control of everything, God is and will send different spirits, more evolved spirits that can guide us in this journey, right? But still, those spirits will be incarnated. If they are an immortal spirit as well, they will do our part and help us here that are maybe a little bit still struggling a little bit on the on this journey. Yeah.
I always like to use the analogy of a digital picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's made of pixels. Each of one is a pixel. The picture will not change if each pixel doesn't change either.
That's
Yeah.
good.
It's
And what you said, Luis, reminded me when we had that event in the Calgary Library.
Yes.
Spiritism
Conference,
Canadian Spiritism Council
Mhm.
promoted this here in the library 3-4 years ago, don't recall.
2019. Yep.
And then we brought Brazilian Federation, the president, right, from Brazilian Federation, which is the biggest in the world, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And he had one mega palestra.
Lecture.
One lecture,
Talk,
thank you. And after that, and he was talking about the transition to the regeneration world, and I asked him in person, right, or even he said this, I don't recall now, but he said a good analogy, right, is when you look at the clock, midnight, right, so try as an expiation world is 11:59, and regeneration is midnight and 1. If you look outside, there's no difference, right, but on the clock is the next day already. Right, so he said that we were on that midnight state, right, transitioning, and those first minutes you don't see an improvement in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but the clock is moving towards a better world,
Interesting.
right, and it
Yeah.
will take some time, but for those who live on that day-to-day basis, we don't realize the improvements, but they are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
So
still
that's a
dark until
brilliant-
dawn,
Yeah, yeah.
but it is already the next day.
Yeah.
However, it feels like Groundhog Day that we. Sorry. I just had, when you said clock, I just had to make that. Sorry. All right. So, I brought some of the just to understand more the meaning of fraternity. There are two books that I like to bring. One is this one, Na Sombra e na Luz, or In the Shadow and Light, by the Spiritist Victor Hugo, that talks a little bit about the characteristics or some sort of definition of fraternity. And Victor Hugo says that fraternity is a sublime and shining link that indissolubly links all souls. And I didn't pay you to say all that, right? When you're, it's interesting how. Thank you, Ananta. This link.
We can talk about it later.
Yeah. This link that it doesn't go away and solidifies all affective feelings into one reciprocal love. So, I think I want to kind of make a point on this reciprocal, because fraternity is something that is a two-way street. You cannot. The invitation is like, I'm gonna be fraternal, just with you, Renata. Do something, and Renata say, yeah, thank you, bye. This exchange of feelings, this exchange of love, needs to be, or is described by the spirits, is about this exchange of love between one and another. It's us giving everything, or the things that we are able to give to the world and to our brothers and sisters, and that love and that action coming back to us, right? So this is reciprocal. This way, this strength, this power that we have as human beings, that we have as immortal spirits, is giving and exchanging. Is the giving and receiving. Is this exchange that make fraternity kind of this shining. I learned in Portuguese, in the text in Portuguese says rutilante. I didn't know what rutilante was. Rutilante is que brilha, que resplandece, luzente, cintilante. So it's kind of this shining link that connects us. with us. And especially, if you think about this link, and you think that all the challenges that we are facing in this world, for me, it brings responsibility of what am I doing in this exchange? Am I the one that is just receiving?
Just saying, thank you, bye.
Yeah, thank you, bye.
Mhm.
Yeah. Am I the one that's just receiving? Am I the one that is just giving? Which, okay, that is okay. At least I'm doing my part. But in what purpose am I giving? Right? Am I giving that love in exchange or bargaining?
Like
Something?
giving and already expecting.
Yeah, as I'm gonna
Conditional.
give something, but actually
I'll
I
like you if you.
yeah. What is my sentiment? What is my purpose when I'm being fraternal to my neighbor? It can be relative, it can be friend, or it can be anyone, or maybe someone that you don't even know. So that makes me reflect on both ways, right? How do you feel about this? Have you thought about this responsibility that we all have in promoting fraternity? Is that something that it's part of your, if we take Santo Agostinho, or how do you say Santo Agostinho in English? San Agustin?
Yeah.
Say no.
Saint Augustine. When our famous question, 919, die know yourself. Is that part of our kind of reflections on how am I being practicing?
It should be, right?
It should be, yeah. What impedes us? What is the roadblock that we cannot do that maybe?
There's none.
There's what?
None.
None? Yeah. We create some of those roadblocks, right? Yeah.
By choice.
By choice. Yeah. Does God put some roadblocks? Yeah, Luis, you're not going to know by
Oh, we
yourself
would
today.
love to say so because then
Yeah.
we would find somebody to blame, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Cool. So another text from our book, Nosso Livro, by the Spirit Emmanuel, says that fraternity is a sun. I love how the spirits that are more evolved than us are able to use some easy but powerful analogies. Because you know the sun is this big, massive star that we all know. We know those rays of light. We know how important is the sun for us. And he starts that fraternity is the sun, composed of divine rays, emitted by our capacity to love and serve. So think about if fraternity is a sun, and we just said that we have a role to play in promoting fraternity. Therefore, there is sun in me, right? There is this essence of sun in me, and I can also shine that divine rays. But the power of the driver of how much shine, how much rays of light that I can emit is with the amount of love that I have within my own self.
Yeah, that goes back to the analogy Victor did last week with the vase with the little holes. Once I have enough, I can start overflowing and offer to others.
Exactly, yeah. So that brings kind of the reflection, even though we are saying fraternity about it's that love, that fraternal love between brothers and sisters or other human beings, that brings the reflection about how I am invited to look at myself, at my sun, the sun, kind of sun, not sun, sun as the o astro, and looking at how much love am I cultivating within my own self? Because by logic, I'm not able to share and donate or emit those rays of light if I don't have cultivated that within my my own self, right? So that self-encounter or that self-awareness that we have with ourselves, how am I treating myself? How am I being fraternal with my own self, right? We have so many history. We have history as incarnated, as Luis incarnated, my childhood, how the experience that I have during my existence, but I also have the experience, if, as we believe in the law of reincarnation, we have the experience that from our other lives, right? And we are here to heal those things that maybe didn't work quite well, even in this life or past lives. And how am I treating? How I'm being? So Alberto Almeida likes to use that we have hurted inner child, right? So those are the things that are, Luis, you didn't kind of process it, or you faced this challenge and it's not quite well healed. So how am I being fraternal with those inner childs that we have within ourselves? How am I sending those childs and giving them time to talk to me so we can address and we can reflect and see what can I do to let that child grow and heal itself.
Yeah. And then interesting because that you brought child, right?
Yeah.
Because there is the one word that's called my attention in Emmanuel's sentence there is serve. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We understand love, we understand divine, right? Divine fraternity being a divine laws, but what about serve, right? And when you bring the child analogy, when I was thinking about serve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the sun serves us every second for billions of years, and we will probably serve for more, right?
Yeah.
Don't know how many billions of years, and never stops serving us despite the bad, the mistakes that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jesus was the example who was here and only served all the time.
Yeah.
And when you bring the child, I was thinking about the mom, right?
Moms, yeah.
Because they serve their descendants
Mm-hmm.
since they are born until the end,
Mm-hmm.
right? They are there to serve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that he brings this verb into this analogy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we have to think in the know thyself part, right? We have to think: are we serving enough,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Do we even serve others, or do we always think about ourselves first?
Mm-hmm.
That is the big gap, right? I think that most of
Yeah.
us has to go through
Mm-hmm.
to start, to actually stop thinking about ourselves first
Mhm.
and foremost, and think like moms, right? If I have to think about my child, I have to think, are they well? And they are there to serve them regardless of the mistakes that they do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the transition, and again, this was the pure example
Yeah.
of servitude, right?
Yeah.
Incarnated here, and it's a big step, right? To be
It
able
is.
to move from myself, right, and to be able to serve others.
And sometimes we get paralyzed because we say, I'm going to serve in this world that it needs so much serving. It seems that like I won't make any difference in serving.
A pixel.
It's a pixel. Exactly. So what difference am I making in serving, right? And sometimes we want to solve world, like we have this kind of sense, we want to solve world hunger, right? And then we get paralyzed because the thing is too big, right? But what I think this, and Artur makes some reflections around this, is the capacity of Renata, Clayson, Dani, is that the same? The capacity that we have, is that the same? No, it's all different. And sometimes, even though we know that in our minds that is different, but we still sometimes compare because the wilderness is doing so much. So what am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to contribute to anything, right? But the invitation is not to paralyze and do what is within our own strength, right? Emmanuel, the spirits are not saying that you need to put up the entire fire on the forest. That's not what he's asking. But if you can throw a glass of water, you can throw a glass of water, right? And that's what is being asked from us in that survey, right? Maybe it's that survey the mom with the son. Is that serving from two friends? Is that serving from the son to a mom? There are so many that each one of us is invited to reflect what is that I can do that is within my own capacity to do that and not get paralyzed. And it's interesting when you said, oh, when is that I'm just thinking about myself? When is that the two biggest issues of humanity, that is selfishness and pride? And when is something that I just need to take a look at myself because there's something that I need to take care of myself? I'm not diminishing and forgetting you, Bruno, or our brothers and sisters. I just need to heal myself so I can help you to become better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Kardec says, the good spiritist is the one that makes the effort to the limit of their strength.
Yeah.
Everybody's limit's different, and our abilities or strengths, they are not stiff, they're not fixed or hard, they are elastic. They can change and stretch with time.
Yeah, exactly. That is not just, Luis, you are born with XYZ capacity. You're gonna die with XYZ capacity. No, because just with the law of progress, as we get more knowledge, as we grow, that capacity will start to amplify.
What about getting smaller? Because for
Getting
example,
smaller.
yeah, just trying
Yeah.
bringing some personal experience to the place. Here is not the best, the welcoming city for me as a blood person to live in. And being outside is not so great sometimes. So I feel that my power is increasing. Oh,
Decreasing?
I mean, yes. So what do I do?
But how do you feel? Are you saying that your power to serve is
Yeah,
decreasing?
because for example, whenever you're outside, you just, for example, being serving to strangers sometimes.
Yeah.
You just outside, somebody needs something, and you're there, and you serve, and you help, and
Yeah.
but you just don't do it anymore, because sometimes whenever you do it, it's not very nice to me to do it because of the thing that I just said.
Your actions are not welcome.
No.
Well,
So what do we do? What do we do?
That's the issue of the society.
Yeah,
Right.
because it's. I know it makes sense. Just we have to do it. We have to work in ourselves. But it's hard sometimes whenever you just get rocks thrown at you.
I think it goes back to what Luis said about healing your own wounds first, and like not being self-conscious that you're not doing as much as you could, because at this very moment you're still focused on healing your wounds. And then after that you might have a clearer vision of the bigger picture, and it hurts when it's not welcomed, but still you have a clear conscience that you did the best you could with what you had. And if whoever was receiving didn't have open hands to receive, that's up to them.
True.
Also, I think it's an opportunity to develop compassion, because people in some situations, and it's hard, but it's one feeling or one virtue that can be very tricky, because then you like in our state right now as humanity, we're very selected to who you feel compassion about it. Some other people you don't feel compassion, you judge. Well, this one I can't have compassion. So it's always an invitation to improve our compassion towards other people as well. And I felt like that too in certain times with people that you help and you not feel as welcome, but it's that continuation, right? We need to persevere.
Because if you
Yeah.
think about who can we only control? It's just
Barely ourselves.
barely ourselves. Barely ourselves. Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Just maybe about to add something.
Yeah.
I just was doing my reflections
Yeah.
on why I was listening to everybody. So I noticed because I've been in other institution, not sometimes religion related, and we always had this serving, discussion because it was part of the institution.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess every time we're thinking about serving, we are always thinking about for ourselves, our perspective. We always thinking about serve a completely strange person,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't look like around us, like our closest family members. Sometimes there is always an opportunity to serve daily.
Yeah.
Daily could be either your husband, your wife, your kids, or a friend who only needs a word on a phone call or
Mhm.
something like that. I mean, I know here it's actually there, right? It's
Yeah.
very hard due to the harsh weather. You go outside, I've done that before in Brazil, but understand. But I guess it's so hard for us, sometimes serve the closest person around us, and we don't realize that those people also need to get served.
I like to bring charity, as you started. We most of the times we say this. We use the serve in more on a more tangible, material way that we call assistance, right? But there is also the other two parts on charity that is about indulgence and it's about forgiveness, right? So I can share, I've been struggling with some situations of my life in the interactions with relatives that it's been really hard to practice indulgence. It's been really hard even to go into forgiveness, right? So that part is about, if I'm practicing that indulgence, at least trying, at least being aware, that is one way of serving myself. That is one way, I think, that's my personal opinion, of serving even my family, right? It's one way of navigating and going through those challenges there. That is beyond just the doing something more tangible on the kind of the assistance side of it, right? So that is some of the other directions that we can put our effort on in serving, in practicing that love. But I understand. I like the point of compassion, because if we can only control ourselves, and we do, with our consciousness that I'm doing this because I think this is love, this is what I'm invited. How it's going to be received, and the stones thrown at me, that is another virtue being asked maybe from us to be practiced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a very nice point, my sister. I can share my personal experience about that. For 6 months, I work as a cleaner or housekeeping in a hospital. And for many people, treat me like an invisible person. So, and it's something that I've learned and I share to you, and I repeat like Jesus' words is, you are the light of the world. Okay? So I'm not saying this, Jesus said, and it's something we are here as a Spiritist to sow many kind of different seeds around us. If we are here, we have a mission. We have a significant mission. So it's, sometimes some people are gonna welcome us, sometimes not. And when it's not about us, it's about them.
Look what happened with Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I always say if even he wasn't unanimous, why would I ever dream of being? Not gonna happen.
Sorry.
no, it's so it's kind of like, keep in mind, I have a mission, I have a light inside of me, and I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do like what I'm feeling. It's the right things to do. So I'm also part of minority, and I try to learn how the spirituality wants to teach me, like what's the lesson in my existence now. So and just trust your intuition, trust your feelings, and always don't be afraid, and don't let the judgment stop you, because Jesus and you know your potential. So, yeah.
I agree. That's what I was going to say to you. I think compassion was direct to the point. Couldn't be better, because on the other side, what you have is a sick person. You have a very sick spirit on the other side that suffers a lot and probably will suffer for many lives ahead. You know what I mean? So I think how we should interpret this is as that person needs assistance. They need very fast, right? They are very amargo.
Bitter.
They are really, really bitter, right? They are really suffering a lot, and their life they live a lot of pain, right? So if we start to think this, look this differently, we start realizing that this suffering that is around us is not purely material, as you brought on the service side of things, right? People are suffering all the time, a lot, despite most of them have everything from a material perspective, right? Even a good house, they have cars, but they still suffer internally. So that's one of the things that I want to share. With regard to yours, I agree to you, right? As a spiritist, we don't see servitude anymore as a material thing. At least we should not, right? Servitude for spiritists is maybe a smile, right? Maybe shaking a hand, maybe a response to someone, saying thank you sometimes. You know what I mean? You do not necessarily need to do something or to give money to be able to serve. So that's one of the things that came to my mind, and I was going to go back to Jesus, right? What examples in his life that we can learn from? Those who he cured, those who he gave fish or bread, those were against him, right, on the day of the trial, right? Other ones, like Paul, he just asked that question and transformed his life. Why do you persecute me? You know what I mean? He served by asking a question. It may change one's life forever, right? So that says, maybe you give the fish, you give the bread, that is just yet another material thing that one was given.
Never expecting an answer. It was to make you reflect on yourself.
Exactly, right? But probably our words are probably one of the greatest assets that we have to serve. Much more than our hands, I would say.
In building on exceptional points that have been brought up regarding all aspects of this, but you raise a good point, Daniel, on the idea of what the measure of success is. Because oftentimes when we do something, when we want to help somebody in any capacity, there's a hope that we immediately see the outcomes. Like that we get the feedback right away. And that actually only feeds us to keep doing it, right? Yeah. But it's like with anything, you get a good vibe from something, or you enjoy eating something, you want to eat more of that, right? However, one of the elements that I think that I try to keep in mind for myself, and is that I just don't know. I don't have the capacity to perceive all the different ways in which what I think are meaningless actions, especially when they're brushed aside, when they're rejected, can actually have an impact. And there's been John was bringing up the point in which we then reference Jesus' life. And if you actually think about Jesus' life, I mean, he came to change the world. But even in his own life, he couldn't even change Jerusalem. He failed. Right? They decided to get rid of him rather than change their world. Yeah. And it took 350 years before just the Roman Empire agreed, okay, we'll kind of accept these teachings. Yet, if he was just motivated by the immediate feedback of the actions that he would have pursued, he would have given up before he even started. But it wasn't about that.
Yeah.
Just as, and I think that the idea, the thought that comes in on a seed, you say, this seed looks in particularly bad shape. And so I'm going to help this seed. It's getting too much sun, too little water. I'm going to look after this particular seed. I'm going to make sure that it gets just the right amount of water so that it can grow, and it doesn't. And you feel that it was maybe wasted. Yet, when you think about it, all that effort, there's runoff. When you water the ground, it doesn't just water the
That
immediate
seed.
vicinity of it.
Yeah.
It provides groundwater to all the other seeds. And while you may have put in efforts that for whatever reason didn't flourish into the exact outcomes that you wanted, if you just take a step back, you may realize that there's 15 different plants that have sprouted all around you because of your efforts that you feel were failed regarding this particular one. And we don't, I mean, in a field it's easy to see because then you can see the fruits of your labor if you step back, but we don't often see it when it comes to each other. Yet, I genuinely believe that those efforts are never wasted, whether for you or somebody else. And that might be, you know, in recognition of that, a way to see that these particular activities that are constantly being, you know, pushed aside, that are being shut down in front of you, and it would even be painful.
Yeah, but the thing is, I definitely know. I'm reading our Bible every week, and regarding the seed, you can do whatever you do. You can water the right amount of water, the sun, and la la la. So it's just let it be, and then it will change the place that it is, just because, I don't know, an animal stepped on it and the seed from here went to there, and that is better for her, and blah 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 for it. The thing that I am talking about is not even when I do something and it doesn't get well, it's not well received. It's just me being, just me walking, just me being there. It's not very nice sometimes. That's right. This is what I'm saying. I don't know, I think it was the second week that I was here. I moved to Calgary last summer. I was walking in the condominium, new condo. And just by walking, just me walking, I had my dog, I had my kid walking a scooter in front of me. And I heard so many things, just to be walking.
I guess most of us around here know what is that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling like, as I would say, I'm a white male man. First time that I faced this kind of situation was in here too, and I work in Europe, and even for American companies, I've been all over Latin America, that exists. I know it's sad, but it's our choice to be here, so.
Yeah.
It's
not my choice. I came here.
Yeah, that's the way that I came here for like 15 years of experience and putting me to start from scratch.
Really?
Yeah, and job that I did for 15 years for like American, European companies, and they said I didn't have Canadian experience. All of us have passed for this here. I've been new for you. It's, how can I say, stands not you. You know what I mean? Just don't.
So your situation is just one example. That's why I have the picture of Earth. How fraternity, it's still it's still something that we're still struggling to practice, right? That just proves a point, or it proves a point that how we still have some ways to go when we can truly see ourselves as brothers and sisters. Because at this point, it's not, right? There is this perception or this kind of mindset that there are people that are better than others, there are people that deserve and don't deserve. So that just is a reflection of how our planet Earth, it's still in this hospital kind of phase, figuring out how to behave in a society that really can practice fraternity, that really can see when a brother or sister is in pain, that we can be of service to help that brother or sister that is in pain. And when we see someone that in pain, that we can be there, and we're all the same. And it's interesting that let's take just the pandemic, just one example. Didn't choose the virus, didn't choose A or B or C or D depending of their, let's say, educational, right? It was for everyone. And how this moment of life's earth, this moment of in our history, this big invitation that we had to be fraternal. To be fraternal with our families first when we were locked in the house, and how to be fraternal.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. And how to practice fraternity with the entire society, and put aside the things, if it's the color of our skin, if it's the education or where we come from, if you're immigrants or not. Still, I think there's some long ways to go, so that we can really truly see everyone here, outside in the city, province, country, and world, as really brothers and sisters. Because that is the true sentiment and feeling from fraternity, is to see every one of us here as brothers and sisters.
And where should we start?
Hmm?
And where should
we start?
I think
In
that's
ourselves, right?
the,
Yes.
I think that's the
When and where?
main. Now.
Yeah. Yesterday is too late.
Well,
Today is the next best moment
Yeah,
to start, right?
yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
One thing is very important for we exercise the fraternity, let's say the fraternity feeling or sentiment is it's something I've learned in my mediumship group in Brazil. It's we are spirits. And the spirits has no color, spirit has no sex.
No.
We are spirit and period. Okay? And we need to also bring the compassion, feeling about if I'm a spirit and my people around me are a spirit and they deal me in a rude way or they don't welcome me, I need to understand they are in another step, you know. I need to recognize I have this knowledge inside of me, and I need to, let's say, make a difference because I am a spirit. I'm lost, but okay.
We got you.
Yeah, everyone is a different step, a different process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing that's very important is, as spirits incarnated, we have the privilege to do the charity, the universal charity, 100%. Not only the incarnated, but also the other spirits.
Yeah.
So let's say if someone deal with you, it could be obsessed with another spirit, or something like this. You know, it's try to see more than your physical eyes.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that's the true invitation of indulgence, because we are invited to see that the other is as imperfect as I am.
Yeah, and I also think it's, I like to go back to what you said about the part of healing ourselves first, because it's not because we're spiritists that we're not allowed to
Yeah.
feel sad, that we're not allowed to feel offended, that we're not, it's our
Or you
default.
can get mad
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, if we were above all that, we would either be here on a mission
Yeah.
or in Jupiter,
Yeah.
enjoying better times.
Mhm.
But I just think that going back to the self-healing with me, what I forget to ask myself sometimes, and I will remember after I've gotten over my negative feelings, is what is the situation trying to teach me? What is life trying to teach me? And what I found sometimes is a lot of work for me is to be able, in my prayers, to thank God for all these problems. Because these are the situations that will help me grow. Because if I don't have to make enough effort to overcome that, we are just lukewarm.
Yeah.
So this is my personal process.
Good. So I know we're almost at time there. I just want to kind of, as I mentioned,
You wanted us to talk?
no,
Yeah.
that's
You
good.
asked for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's
that-
the first
that was
time
our
I'm doing
mistake.
this. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. I just want to continue the Genesis, just to reemphasize that fraternity must be the cornerstone of the new social order. The spirits are not saying kind of, might, more or less, somewhat. It must. Fraternity must be, because Kardec asks, what are the signs of a fully developed civilization, where the situation that we've just been talking about does not exist? And the Spirit says, you recognize it by its moral development. You think you are advanced because you have made great discoveries. Aren't we? Haven't we made great discoveries? ChatGPT, that's the new thing, right? And brilliant inventions, and because you're better sheltered and clothed than savages. However, you only truly have the right to call yourself civilized when you have eradicated vices from your society, when you live as brothers and sisters, practicing Christian charity. Until then, you're merely enlightened nations that have only passed through the first phase of civilization. So we are...
That was in the 1800s.
That was in the 1800s, yeah, exactly. So we still are in this process. I think there's an invitation of compassion. There's an invitation of hope. There's an invitation of patience. There's an invitation of serenity and so many other virtues for us. Self-love. As we go through this world, this current world that we are in, that is still doing, I think we've done some good advancements on the fraternity side of it, but there's still some ways to go. But as I promised, I was going to talk about a little about Jupiter. Yeah. So what is what does a Jupiter look like according to Mrs. Costello, that was a medium in 1860? Jupiter is infinitely larger than the Earth and looks very different. It is embraced by a pure and brilliant light that illuminates but does not obfuscate. The trees, flowers, insects, the animals, which have their starting point here, are larger and more perfect. Nature is more grandiose and varied. Temperature stable and pleasing. Eyes and ears are enchanted by harmony. So I want to go there. The form of its inhabitants is like yours, but embellished, perfect and purified above all. And then I bolded. A bond of love and fraternity unites us. The strongest help the weakest. So here we can even do a lecture just only on that. The fraternity of not only of human beings that we are here, but the fraternity with animals, the fraternity with trees, flowers, because are they just a thing that God created and just to embellish my life? Or no, they serve as a purpose, right? And how are we can be even fraternal? Here we're having a hard time with humans. Some of us might have even a better fraternity with our dogs or our pets, what have you. But how are we going to be a society in the future like here that can practice this brotherhood and sisterhood, not only with the humans, with the incarnated per se, but with the other elements of the planet and other elements of that planet? And because we're at time, I just want to leave with one passage of I just read. Pure fraternity is the most sublime of the system of relationship between souls. Because as John was saying, we're all souls, we're all spirits. And this pure fraternity is kind of the grounding, the link that we saw, the shining link that should and must connect us as brothers and sisters, as humans, and also with other elements that God has created in this earth, so we can practice that fraternal love. Thank you. What else?
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. How does that feel? It's the kind of first time that we did a little bit of a feel good. Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, we're trying to get a little bit of more, not only because we're all here learning, and I'm gonna learn together. Okay, so we changed a little bit of the announcements as well. I want to make one announcement. We are making a little bit of a change on Sunday. So every first Sunday of the month, we're gonna have the same thing, but every first Sunday we're gonna do in Portuguese. And then the others will be in English, but we'll figure out to translate and everything.
You just use ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Real time translation. He'll let you know how that went. If you want to come in Portuguese.
Maria Luisa and Clara translate.
We're trying to just to kind of cater because we don't have still our.
It's working.
It's working.
Yeah.
It's working.
There's a transcribe function that it keeps writing.
Technology.
Doesn't even need to hear the thing. You just read.
Nice.
Maybe it works. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So we're gonna do we're gonna make an announcement in our social media, but the first one will be Portuguese, and then we'll continue with English. And we're gonna be trying a little bit with kind of being more interactive with everyone, so we can learn all together. Okay. Thank you. So let's do our final prayer, and then we will. All right. So, immersed that we are in this fraternal love amongst us here, let's keep our thoughts raised to God, to Jesus, to the spiritual team of FSS, our own guardian angels, and be thankful for this moment that we were able to share our experiences, our knowledge, our lived experiences as we are incarnated on this earth. And with that we can take the knowledge or some of the nuggets or something that can help us as an immortal spirit to really look into our essence and think about what is that towards brothers and sisters in the society, to be and to put this love into action, to be a brother and sister as a society. Let's be thankful again for this house, for the moments that we shared here that are full of love and enlightened with respect, with serenity. And let's ask that we have a blessed week, a week that the rays of light of the sun can illuminate and enlighten our ways, that the experience that we live, we can reflect of what is that is trying to teach me, and that we can have hope, that we can have faith and confidence that we have all the tools and the strength to do what we came on this earth to do, always following the guides from our Master Jesus. Let us have a blessed Sunday and a blessed week. So be it.
cigars just with me, so I